Courtly love in Elizabethan times existed as a formal aspect of courtship outside of marriage. It came from the traditions of the courtier, in which a subject graces their sponsor or noble above them. In court, this courtiership could be done regardless of gender, but the idea of courtly love which grew out of it was gendered. It was the expression of devotion from the courter, man, usually to the noblewoman. The Elizabethan court was a place of gentry, and so courtly love was a safe way noblemen and women could express affections respectively outside of marriage, as marriages were usually results of alliances and business dealings. Courtly love was much less of an emotional connection, and more about male ambition and self-presentation in order to raise one's position. It was a performative expression. Courtly love could be presented in many ways, such as a knight completing a task for his lord's lady. One of our most well-known examples of courtly love today, although not specifically from the Elizabethan era, is Lancelot and Guinevere. As a monarch and sponsor of the arts, Queen Elizabeth herself was presented with gestures of courtly love. One such example is Edmund Spenser's epic poem, The Faerie Queene, which is an allegorical glorification of English society, Protestantism, and Queen Elizabeth herself.
Welcome to Storytime with Queen Eve. Upon a great adventure he was born, the greatest glory Anna to him gave. That greatest glorious queen of fairyland, to win him worship and her grace to have.
If courtly love was the performative way of raising one's status, betrothal was the literal way. Although it was not recommended, it was legal for girls to marry at 12 and boys at 14, with parental permission. For non-noble families, the average marriage age was between 20 and 30. However, for nobles, since there was already enough money to support land ownership and families as well as the business of securing alliances, marriages did occur more often at younger ages. Betrothals were arranged, whether the family was of noble blood or not. Falling in love was considered unwise, and suitors were chosen by parents and family members. Modern-day ideas such as eloping were off the table. If a marriage happened without first being announced, it was to be considered illegal. The Elizabethan period greatly increased the literacy level in England. Renaissance ideas, which had spread from the continent, increased the demand for education. More children started attending schools, which were often funded at the lower levels by the growing number of guilds who wanted to ensure that their next generation of workers had some basis of education. Guild funding made school tuition cheaper and therefore more available to more people. This lowest level of schooling was called petty school, and it was open to both boys and girls aged 5 to 7 who were instructed in the basics of English language and church principles. The next level of schooling was called grammar school, and it was a much more formal type of education reserved for boys aged 7 to 14. School hours were tedious, from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m., and instruction focused on Latin, religious studies, and mathematics. After grammar school, some students carried on to university, if they were able to fund it. The most popular universities were Cambridge and Oxford. Here, boys would be educated in a wide variety of subjects such as philosophy, poetry, grammar, astronomy, arithmetic, music, theology, medicine, and law. With permission from the monarch, those wealthy enough could study abroad in other countries. Therefore, many nobles were educated on the continent. For girls, education was a much different process. Only girls from noble families were educated past petty school. This further education was taken on privately in the home with a tutor.